So here's another piece of information of analyzing what happens with trends. In this case, we're going to talk about smoking in 1945. This graph shows the percentage of Americans who smoke over time. Use the graph to estimate the percentage of Americans who smoked in 1945. Well, to do this first, we need to understand what the graph is talking about. On our X, we're talking about the years since 1965. Be careful, guys, because we want to know 1945. So they're actually trying to trick you guys because these are the years that have passed since the year 1965. So at 0, what year do you think it is? With 0, no years have passed, so yes, you guessed it. This is actually 1965. 5 years later, that will be 1970. 10 years later, that will be 1975, etc. So that's tricky. We'll get back to that in a moment. Now, before we keep moving, though, what kind of relationship do you notice going forward? Is there a correlation? There is, but is this a positive correlation, negative? If you try to make a line connecting as many dots as possible, you would notice it's more or less like a negative correlation, negative linear, right? Well, we know it's a negative correlation. Negative correlation. And now we want to know how many people more or less smoked in 1945. Well, if this is 1945, if this is 1965, guys, and we want to go to 1945, isn't that 20 years in the past? So instead of going forward, guys, we need to go backwards. We want to go to, if this is 0, we want to go to negative 20. Because we go 20 years in the past, that would be 1945. All right, so we want to get to this point, right? Now, to get this point, guys, first we got to know, well, if this is supposed to be a straight line, can we find the rate of change, how fast this thing is changing? Well, if we were right here, guys, let's say this is looks like a 42. Let me write better. Let's say it is a 42, okay? Just for, it could be 41, 43, whatever. It's just make a close estimate, 42. I'll say it's 42. So from here, if I'm moving 20 years back, let's see how much it would change 20 years forward. Just to see the relationship, guys. Well, if I go 20 years forward, where is my new point? Would you guys say it's more or less about in 30? I think so. So it went 12 up and 20 to the left. Well, rate of change, guys. Remember, if it's rate of change, we're going to move from this point to this point. Shouldn't we move 12 more up and then 20 to the left? Well, let's do it. 12 up, 20 to the left. Well, what's 42 plus 12? I would say that's 54. So, in 1945, there were 54% of Americans that smoked in 1945. There you have it. Now, that's the answer. Now, what happens if they were to ask you, I want you to create an equation for that? Well, very simple. Let's go back to our good old friend, Mr. Y equals mx plus b. You know that it was, you know that our rate of change was how much? It was 12 up, 20 left. If it was 12 up and 20 left, remember, don't forget the negatives and such. Let me use a different color here. Well, if it was 12 up, that's positive 12. If it was 20 to the left, that's negative 20. Can we reduce, guys? Divide by 2? Or, yeah, divide by 2. That will be 6 over negative 10. I can keep reducing. Divide by 2 more. That will be 3 over 5. Negative, right? So that's my slope, negative 3/5. Now, what's my y-intercept? Remember, where is it touching at 0? Right here. We said it was 42. So our equation would be y, this was 42. There we go. So y equals, my slope was negative 3/5 x plus 42. And that's going to be your equation if they were to ask you. And that's basically what you do.